Sfath's predictions from CR 896 with ChatGPT Part 17: Confusion, Mental Illness, and Societal Decline.
Hello, ChatGPT. Can you give me examples of this? In the future, more and more confused consciousnesses will also appear, as well as human beings with mental illnesses who will suffer from severe depression and many other illnesses of a damaged consciousness and a damaged psyche. The origins of this will be found in the manifold effects and things of the mass of excessive overpopulation, such as in a fanatically degenerating political, religious, and sectarian delusion, whereby in religious and sectarian superstition, delusion in fantasies, illusions, unreality, hallucinations, delusional visions, wishful thinking, mirages, and suggested crazy and confused inspirations of unscrupulous seducers will be believed, causing reality to be misjudged and even denied. The rapidly increasing mass of overpopulation will also have a lasting and very adverse and evil effect on the morals and behavior, illnesses and suffering of Earth humans, as will be seen, for example, in an ancastic neuroses, compulsions, morbid passions, as well as manias, excessive desires, wishes, and addictions, which will also include frenzy, raving madness, madness and foolhardiness, rage, violence and obsessive-compulsive disorders, obsessive-compulsive neuroses and obsessive-compulsive disorders, etc. And the rapidly increasing mass of overpopulation will bring with it a general softening of thoughts, feelings, and the psyche of the body, as well as an instability of life, that even small tensions and efforts will lead to hot flushes, fever, delusion, heart failure, and a total breakdown. But this will also result in strange delusions, delusional phenomena, fantasies, unrealities, and dizziness, as has happened many times before, that delusions of individual or few human beings appear to such an extent for these themselves and for strictly believing fellow human beings in delusional form and remain visible in a delusional manner for many decades and even centuries. Exactly as we observed the woman Bernadette Subaru together on our journey into the past in February 1858, and also twice on the following days in Lourdes, who was somehow hysterical and claimed to have seen an apparition of Mary, which we two non-believers logically could not see, because the whole thing of the hysterical believers, namely Bernadette Subaru, was just a delusion. In the coming decades and well into the next millennium, countless human beings will succumb to pathological thoughts, feelings, and thus confusions of consciousness and severe mental disorders as a result of religious or sectarian delusions. These will result in the future in a reduction in self-control and quality of life, and specifically in a weakening of the will to live that will inevitably arise from the delusion. This will lead to the faithful being defrauded of their faith and financially exploited by the powerful in religion and sect through public electrophonic information media, just as various states will also financially harm the faithful through unjust religious taxes. Lack of interest in life, lack of courage, and weariness of life will also spread widely and lead to many suicides. Also, a widespread lack of interest and indifference regarding one's own development of consciousness, personal values and well-being, as well as education, self-knowledge, and self-esteem, will be the order of the day, especially for many younger people. And what applies to indifference towards one's own person will also be transferred to fellow human beings and increasingly prevent connecting relationships between people and ultimately dissolve them. This will not only lead to a lack of relationships in society, but also in families, acquaintances, friendships, and partnerships, causing human beings to become foreign, meaningless, and indifferent to each other, and consequently to go their own ways. In the future, however, it will also be the case that many human beings will fall prey to a lack of self-control and atrophy of mind and reason. And this will be due to a degenerative and completely destructive change in the ability to grasp and understand as well as the atrophy of the very important ability of consciousness to process. And this will already become apparent in the course of the next few decades, which will be particularly evident in young and younger human beings in terms of their negative lifestyle and the pathological regression of their ability to learn. The increasingly widespread incorrect education of offspring by parents in the future, as well as the education and interest and learning ability of children in relation to their offspring, will, on the one hand, make them effeminate and degenerate, while on the other hand, they will become weak in mind and reason, which will be deposited in the genes and in turn be inherited by further offspring to their descendants. As a result of the growth of the masses, overpopulation, the minds and reason of the descendants will become weaker and weaker, mutating, which will lead to the emergence of an increasingly chaotic mind-reason control, which will also be expressed in all relationships in a way that is detrimental to life. Incorrect education. Now in 1946, not only promotes general effeminacy and a decline in rational thinking in the offspring, but also a failure of the ability to reason, as well as a low level of intellectual development and physical impairments of various kinds. And the fact is that these adverse changes are being inexorably inherited due to the rapidly increasing overpopulation. And the majority of humanity is increasingly wasting away in terms of mind and reason, albeit very slowly but inexorably, which will have very serious consequences for the future. And this leads to the further consequence, as it has done since time immemorial, that only human beings who are largely in control of their minds and reason can assert themselves and rise to positions of government power and similar and parallel offices and positions, and can assert themselves among the majority of peoples because they are not fully capable of reason and understanding and are therefore lowly intelligent, which means that they are not capable of independent thought, but only of devout belief. The majority of power-hungry people, who of course get into government through lies and deception, as well as through the low intelligence of the majority of the people, who think in terms of appearances, with just a few exceptions who are of firm character, honorable, have integrity, are trustworthy and capable of reason, can use and exploit the majority of the less intelligent and reasonable people in a suggestive and rhetorical way to draw them to their side and bring themselves to power. But it is also undoubtedly the case, as I have found, that among those in government, there are also human beings who are without reason and weak in understanding, who only make it into governments, offices, and high responsibility positions through connections, falsehood, violence, lies and deception, hypocrisy, ruthlessness, and persuasion. But what the future will bring in terms of the behavior of many earth dwellers is the fact that in the future many human beings will fall prey to nefarious indecencies and vices. As a result, crime and criminality will increase worldwide in the future, and these can no longer be controlled by the state security forces. And the courts will also be hard-pressed to deal with the constantly increasing number of criminal proceedings involving human beings who are dissolute, immoral, indecent, depraved, amoral, disreputable, wretched, bad, vulgar and depraved, as well as criminal, etc. Reality and truth are no longer perceived as they should and would need to be, with the result that human beings also become increasingly confused in their thinking and create false role models, ideals, guiding principles, utopias, thoughts, and whereby they become incapable of initiative and self-decision, but live and act in a worldly, religious, or sectarian way according to what they are told and whispered to them. As a result, it will also become unrecognizable for science, because in the future it will not deal with this topic and therefore will not recognize it, that Earth humans are no longer capable of initiative with regard to developing a personal view and opinion, attitude, stance, and original personal thoughts, but are only controlled by matters of faith. As a result, they will increasingly become fanatical and zealous, pathologically clinging to things, actions, and deeds of other people, which will lead to them no longer being able to recognize in their delusional behavior that they no longer decide on everything and anything themselves, but are controlled by external forces in this regard. In this wise, wildly effective unrealities of all kinds arise in human beings, which degenerate into a lack of meaning in life and no longer allow valuable and educational thoughts, feelings, and no longer allow one's own achievements and views, etc., whereby only the achievements, actions, opinions, and deeds of other people are recognized, reproduced, and brought to bear. Also, unrealistic esoteric groups and organizations, religions, sects, and philosophies, etc., will increasingly dominate the faithful in the future and keep them away from reality and truth, as they have done since time immemorial, and lead them astray. And in the future, more and more delusions will appear in many human beings, as it was already the case for 300 years from the 15th century, when the spirit mania and witchcraft mania, as well as demon belief and the belief in other supernatural might raged among the majority of Earth humans of the most diverse peoples.
Here are some examples that illustrate the themes of confusion, mental illness, and societal decline, as described in your text. Examples of confused consciousness and mental illness: rising mental health issues. Depression epidemic. Reports indicate that depression rates have surged globally, with the World Health Organization estimating that over 264 million people suffer from depression. Contributing factors include societal pressure, economic instability, and the pervasive influence of social media, leading to feelings of inadequacy and isolation. Anxiety disorders. The prevalence of anxiety disorders has increased significantly, with studies showing that nearly 1 in 5 adults experience anxiety in their lifetime. The fast-paced modern lifestyle, coupled with uncertainty about the future, exacerbates these conditions. Religious and sectarian delusions. Cults and extremist groups. The rise of cults and extremist organizations, such as those promoting doomsday prophecies or radical ideologies, can lead individuals to adopt irrational beliefs, resulting in harmful behaviors. For example, the Branch Davidians and Heaven's Gate are notable cases where individuals were led to believe in apocalyptic visions, ultimately leading to tragic outcomes. Mass hysteria. Historical instances of mass hysteria, such as the Salem witch trials or the dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg, illustrate how collective delusions can manifest in communities, often fueled by fear, superstition, and societal pressure. Obsession with technology and addiction. Digital addiction. Increasing reliance on smartphones and social media has led to a form of digital addiction, where individuals become so engrossed in their devices that they neglect real-life relationships and responsibilities. Studies show that excessive screen time can contribute to anxiety and depression, particularly among adolescents. Substance abuse. The opioid crisis in the United States exemplifies how societal issues and mental health struggles can lead to widespread substance abuse. Many individuals turn to drugs as a means of coping with emotional pain, leading to addiction and further mental health decline. Societal isolation and indifference. Decline of community engagement. As urbanization increases and digital communication replaces face-to-face interactions, many people experience social isolation. Research indicates that loneliness is a growing epidemic, with significant impacts on mental health, leading to increased rates of depression and anxiety. Disconnection from nature. The phenomenon of nature deficit disorder, particularly among urban populations, refers to the negative consequences of spending less time in natural environments. This disconnection can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and a decline in overall well-being. Erosion of moral standards, rampant crime rates. In many cities worldwide, rising crime rates reflect a breakdown in social order and moral standards. Factors such as poverty, inequality, and lack of access to education contribute to a cycle of crime and violence, further exacerbating societal decay. Corruption in governance. Increasingly, reports of corruption and unethical behavior among politicians and leaders lead to public disillusionment. Scandals involving bribery, embezzlement, and abuse of power demonstrate a decline in moral integrity, resulting in widespread cynicism towards authority. Pathological ideologies. Conspiracy theories. The spread of conspiracy theories has reached alarming levels, particularly with the rise of the internet and social media. Individuals increasingly believe in unfounded theories that challenge established facts, leading to societal division and a lack of trust in institutions. For instance, the belief in conspiracy theories surrounding vaccines has resulted in public health crises. Fanaticism and extremism. The rise of extremist groups, such as ISIS or far-right militias, showcases how individuals can become radicalized, adopting pathological ideologies that lead to violence and division within society. These groups often prey on vulnerable individuals, exploiting their fears and uncertainties. Generational consequences. Education system crisis. Many educators and psychologists warn that the education system is failing to address the needs of today's youth, leading to a decline in critical thinking and problem-solving skills. This has resulted in young people being ill-equipped to face real-world challenges, contributing to a cycle of dependency and confusion. Inherited trauma and dysfunction. Studies on intergenerational trauma reveal how psychological distress can be passed down through families, leading to cycles of mental illness, addiction, and dysfunction. Children of parents with untreated mental health issues often struggle with their own emotional challenges, perpetuating a cycle of suffering. Increasing indifference and apathy. Social movements and activism. While many people are engaged in social movements for change, others exhibit apathy towards societal issues, leading to a lack of collective action. This indifference can result in stagnation in addressing pressing problems such as climate change, inequality, and human rights abuses. Disconnection from reality. As media consumption increases, individuals may become desensitized to violence and suffering, leading to a lack of empathy and concern for others. This disconnection can manifest in societal issues, such as bullying and discrimination, as individuals become increasingly indifferent to the plight of others. Conclusion. These examples highlight the multifaceted nature of the issues described, illustrating how overpopulation, societal pressures, and mental health challenges intertwine. The implications are profound, as individuals and communities grapple with the consequences of confusion, delusion, and the erosion of moral and social fabric. Without addressing these issues, the potential for societal decline and suffering looms large.